Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Module 12 homework. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to install Spark, Apache Spark, or PySpark, which is the Python API for Spark. Just as we did talk about the installation of Jupyter, I'm going to show you how to link the two together to give you a little bit of a head start for your homework. So in the same Ubuntu 16.04 VM that I was in before when I did the Jupyter Notebook install, and we're going to start by installing Java because Java 8 or higher is required for the newest release of Apache Spark, which is version 2.2. So I want to head to this URL here and pause the video if you need to copy it verbatim. And it gives us instructions for the 64-bit JRE on the Linux platform. We're not on CentOS, so we don't have the package manager, so we're just going to install it from source. And I downloaded the version from this page, java.com. And I went under Linux, and then I selected this one right here, the Linux 64, and I went ahead and downloaded it already. So I'm going to go ahead and follow these instructions here. I'm going to pop open a terminal. And if we look under downloads, okay, we can see the Java JRE file right there, the Java runtime environment. So we're going to just go ahead and install it where it is. It's perfectly fine for learning purposes. So we're just going to follow the instructions, hit a tar zxvf, and then point it to our JRE. Sorry. Let me cd to the directory first. Downloads tar-zxvf. Okay, so we unpacked Java in our environment here, so we're going to go ahead and delete the installer. Okay, and as you see, we installed the Java runtime environment here under our downloads folder in our home directory at JRE 1.0.0 underscore update number 151. Okay, so that takes care of all we need for Java. So let's see what's next. Alright, so we have Java 8 or higher. Now we're going to visit the Apache Spark downloads page and we're going to pull down the most recent version. So this instructions here, they're a little bit out of date. The most recent version is now Spark 2.2. So we're going to head and take the July release here, Apache Spark 2.2, pre-built for Hadoop 2.7 and later. And it gives us the tar gzip archive file right here. So we're going to go ahead and download that. And likely, it's okay to pick most of these. I like to pick one that I recognize, so CS Utah or Wayne is in Michigan and Columbia is in New York. So since we're in the DC area, I'll go ahead and pick this mirror here. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it to the downloads directory. Okay, now that the download's complete, go ahead and take a look here, and indeed we see the Spark 2.2 tgzip file here. So we're going to go ahead and unzip it using the tar, which is an extractor for an archive file. So xzf, and we point it to the Spark gzip, and we're going to head untar it right here. So we should see some stuff go whizzing by here in just a second. Okay, we're not, I guess it just unzipped it to a file there for us. And then we're going to go ahead and it tells us to move it into the opt folder. So we're going to move Spark 2.7 into opt Spark. And don't forget we're on 2.2.0. Okay, so a little bit of issue here, so let me see if I can sudo move it. Okay, so if I list opt now, okay, there's my Spark directory. So I'm going to create a quick symlink to point the opt Spark directory to just kind of put in an alias for it, more or less. So ln-s is a symlink to opt Spark 2.2 So we're going to point that to /opt/spark, and this is just in case we decide to install any other versions later. Of course, I can't do it once again, so I'm going to have to sudo. Okay, and there it is. So if I list ls opt spark, it should be my, yep, and it's my spark 2.2 directory. Great, so let's see what's next. Finally, we're going to edit bash rc. So for me, I like to use vim, so we're going to vim /bash rc. And if I just press Shift G, it takes me to the bottom here. And I'm just going to add those other environment variables as they specify here. So import spark home. I'm going to point that to the symlink that we just created. Okay. I could be wrong, but I think we could also have written those right here too. But if it would only last for as long as the terminal session lasts. So by putting it in your bash RC, you're going to keep that setting going forward. So next up, we got instructions for how to install the Jupyter Notebook, which we've already done. So we're just going to go past this. And we're trying to run our first Python program in Apache Spark. Okay, so let's see if we can do it here. So if we hit apply Spark, of course it's not found. Perfect. So what we should do is go to cd opt. Okay, so we're going to go to cd opt spark. And then let's cd to bin. Those are the Spark binaries. So if we look in here, we see a number of different things. Okay, so there's PySpark there. So now let's try running PySpark. /PySpark. Okay, oh, so it's complaining that Java home isn't set yet. So remember that we installed Java in our home directory under downloads. So we're going to go ahead and say export Java home equals, and we're going to give it that path, which was home jcova and then downloads. And JRE 1.8.0 underscore 151. Okay, so now we've set our Java home environment variable. Now we're going to try to run Spark one more time. Okay, and here we are. So we have our Apache Spark instance up and running. That wasn't really too bad at all, hopefully. And finally here, I just wanted to show you how to tie Apache Spark into the Jupyter Notebook so that you can use it for development. You see here we need to update our bash RC file to update a couple of environment variables for the PySpark driver. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. We're just going to vim our bash RC. And then vim, if you hold shift and press G, it'll take you all the way to the bottom. And you can see that I have exported both those environment variables. So I have the one for Jupyter and putting the Python driver options to notebook as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and write those changes. And I'm already in opt spark bin, which is where the Python PySpark executable is, right here. So I'm going to hit the /PySpark. So it's complaining that Java is not set. So I'm just going to call up a command from before. Right here, so home jcova downloads JRE is where my Java installation was, where I unzipped the tar file. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that. I'm going to run the PySpark command one more time, and if everything's configured correctly, we should see PySpark come up basically inside of a Jupyter notebook inside the browser. And this looks promising. Okay, so here it is. Very good. So now, if we go ahead and take the sample code that they gave us here, not that one, this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to grab this code. I'm going to go to my notebook. I'm going to start a new notebook, new Python 2 notebook. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it here into the interpreter. And I'm going to turn this down a little bit because 100 million samples is probably going to take a little while to run. So let's just do it on 100,000 samples. What this code does is it uses some things you can see here. Spark context.parallelize. This means take the random samples that are generated here, and it's going to put them into an RDD, which is Spark's underlying data structure. It's a resilient distributed data set. So it's a new operation, but it's simple. This just count becomes a Spark RDD quite simply, and then you can do Spark operations on it. Okay, and the rest of this is probably pretty familiar. So I'm going to go ahead and run this code. It's going to take a couple seconds to complete, but it's going to estimate pi based on 10,000 random samples. And you see it came back with a value of 3. So we successfully run our first Spark job inside of a Jupyter notebook. Hopefully that's a pretty quick and easy tutorial for you. I hope it's easy to follow. Of course, you're welcome to ping me with any questions you have. Just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to try to help you out. So please let me know if you need anything, and good luck on the homework.